seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, here we go. The Bhoycie bus is back. Post-match push. I love being back in the season, well, near enough, because post-match push is going to be absolute regular feature twice a week, more than likely most of the season. And as you know, if we're on twice a week, that means the heartthrob, the knicker soaker, Terry Robb will be on. And tonight, me and Terry are buzzing because we're joined by Mark Kearney, you know the one. Dun, 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 dun. And of course, Del O'Reilly, the biggest signing of the summer. Many have argued by pinching him from his own team. We've managed to actually get another contributor onto the show. Gentlemen, how the devil are all you? You good? What's happening?
I'm doing very well, mate. Yourselves?
Yes, all good. All good, mate. All good.
Yeah,
you're off this week, Kelly, you know.
Good here.
What?
You're off this week, son, aren't you?
I'm off. I'm off for 3 weeks. Sorry to piss off any of the workers, but I've got 22 days off the graft, so
that's not bad.
Get it up, East.
that's upsetting. That is upsetting.
So obviously there is plenty of people watching already. As always, if you are enjoying the content, and I know some of you get offended that we've got content, but we have, and we are going to be here a lot this season. So if you're enjoying it, hit that like button, hit subscribe. If you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member, like 40 others now have decided to do it. It's an optional sort of Patreon sort of thing. It does support the channel. We'll pump it right back into our output. None more so described by today. Ladies and gentlemen, 4 brand new microphones bought, 150 sheets. And that was, I know it's not a lot of money, but that's the pod doesn't make a lot of money. We'll maybe get better microphones in the future, but the podcast has completely covered the cost of those 4 microphones for the 31st of July, the Bullfrog Motherwell. And I know for a fact Dale's been a huge help with equipment and stuff for that. And hopefully one day it'll get to the stage, Dale, where I'll have my own. But in the meantime, your help's massively appreciated. Mark's going to be a big feature at the show as well. Obviously, he'll be on the stage at some point. Can't keep him down. And Terry Robb, you probably won't be there, unfortunately, mate, because you're over where you are. But it would have been nice to have you. It'll be the first post-match push without you, buddy.
I know.
Anyway.
It's going to be a great show, by the way, on the 31st for people that maybe are coming. I've spoke to Bhoycie that I've got a very, very good local singer coming. One of the best live guys. I don't know if you want me to divulge in the wee
Go
thing
for
I
it, mate.
texted you the other day, but Mr. Jamie Keenan, who is the drummer of the La Fontaine's band, Scottish kind of rap indie band. They done the Scotland song for the 2020/21 European Championship. So Jim
That's class,
McNulty
Dale.
and Jamie are going to come and play. Fair enough to the guys for beer, no money. And if you're into your indie music, you guys will be absolutely blown away. With these guys are so talented, man. It's going to be a fucking great night. It really is. It's going to be a brilliant night, man.
We've got it all planned out. As you all know, Jonathan was the host with the most when we took on the Endless Celts in the home leg of a question of Celtic. And he is going to be featuring again as the double doon host this time. We're going to do a double doon quiz. He says the show went on that long last time. He's still got a backlog of questions that he's not managed to get through yet. So he went, the work's easy for me, mate. The questions are there. We're going to have a smoke machine. We're going to have projectors. We're going to have live music. We're going to do a Q&A at the end with Phil McGinley hosting that. And we'll obviously be doing the post-match push at the beginning as well, which is what it's about. KT, CSC, Bullfrog, Motherwell, 31st July.
Yeah.
However, let's get down to the football. And before we actually get to the game itself, Terry, I'll come to you, Mr. P.M.P, because I felt a bit emotional at the end of the game today, mate. I think when I seen Arthur Boric welling up, I thought, how class is it that a goalie that gave us a hell of a lot of good memories, mate, and very few bad ones, which is unusual for a goalkeeper, to be fair. You look at them sometimes and you can't decide, do you know what I mean, whether you like them or no, because the amount of howlers they maybe had during their career. Boric, I thought, was classy in choosing Celtic for a start, right? Because you actually go through his career, even post-Celtic, and he actually played for Fiorentina in Serie A, Southampton for a few years in the top half of the English Premier League, and then, of course, his stint at Bournemouth as well, right? Obviously, at the other side of that was his spell at Legia, and he sandwiched his career with his last couple of years at the club as well. What do you make of Arthur Boric and his Celtic legacy, Terry? I think, in my opinion, I wouldn't call him a club legend, but I'd definitely say a post-millennium, modern-day great.
Yeah, he was emotional tonight, and that surprised me because when he was playing in goal for Celtic, he was cool, he was calculated, he was, yes, he got caught up with the crowd and things like that, but he didn't strike me as somebody that I would see someday standing, in tears, and he was in tears a few times.
He was.
I thought Legia balls that substitution up right at the end there, but that's not the first time they've done that, is it? Thought it was a bit farcical, the sort of thing, bringing him on, and then the referee blew it up as soon as he came back on again. But,
you want a replay, Terry?
I'm glad you noticed that. I was convinced. I was like, they're going to come on and at least try and engineer a penalty for Legia or something like that. And then he literally just stood there, held his nose a few times to not cry, and then they just blew the whistle.
I think touching on what Bhoycie said, that the legend, the icon, and the hero words are three separate entities. It's quite hard that Billy McNeil's a hero, an icon, and a legend. Henrik Larsson maybe in the same sentence. I think Arthur Boric goes into the iconic, but
that's what I was going to say there.
More so because he obviously was a very good goalkeeper, and people forget how classy he was. I think it's at one point at Celtic, through maybe a 12-month period, you would probably say he was one of the best goalkeepers in world football with his Champions League performances. I've got no doubt about that, but I think the legend word gets through about just that wee bit too much in regards to some players.
Yes,
I think he was just a very, very good goalkeeper. He came in under Gordon Strachan, relatively unheard of in Celtic circles. He wasn't somebody I was familiar with. A relatively modest fee, around about 700,000. But from the minute the guy came into the club, he totally embraced the football club. He totally embraced the support, the fan base, and he was an excellent goalkeeper. I mean, across my lifetime, there's probably three standout goalkeepers. Packy Bonner, going back a long, long time. and the other two are Boric and Forster. I can't think of anybody else that I would put in that same bracket. And I thought it was fitting tonight, although I thought James Forrest should have scored early doors, but just the way Boric came out and he just spread himself, that's just kind of what my memories of Artur Boric will be. Coming out one-on-ones, he was absolutely amazing. He just made himself so big so many times. A wee bit like Peter Schmeichel, he just came out and the ball was hitting off his leg or his shin or his elbow. It didn't matter as long as he kept it out of the net.
Terry, I think that's a brilliant point that you make there. I'll come to the quiet man at the bottom of the corner getting compared to Cy Ferry tonight in the comments.
Cy Ferry?
Aye, Cy Ferry. They're saying that you look like Cy Ferry in the comments.
Is that big fucking forehead, Mark? Is that big forehead, mate?
Look,
I need to shave my hair, Bhoycie, that's what it is.
A couple of things that Terry brings up there, I'm going to come to you with, right? Firstly, when Boric was signed for the £500,000 ballpark sort of figure it was, I remember my opinion at the time, I wasn't all that overly happy about it. Sound familiar? But I'll tell you the reason why. The reason why was we had David Marshall there, who I was convinced was going to go on and be, that's our goal for the next 15 years potentially sorted, if not maybe close to 20, judging by the longevity that David Marshall, you look like to Craig Gordon these days, your Brad Friedel's back in the day, all ex-Celtic, by the way, all of them, including Brad Friedel. Not many people know that. But I was a wee bit underwhelmed as to why we signed a replacement for David Marshall. I think he came in having to win over the fan base, really, because we always want one of our own to go on and become that icon, no matter what the position in the park is. So for an unheard of player to be coming in at 25 years old, on loan, I believe it was initially, and then it became £500,000. That you'd have thought, well, he must just be there to be the backup, not to take our David Marshall's jersey. Yet we were in no doubt by halfway through that season, it had been the right thing. Obviously, combined with 5 goals at Armedia Bratislava, and then I believe it was 4 goals at Fir Park 3 days later, conceded. Right. That kind of made the easing process, mate, a wee bit, palatable. However, there's not just that Terry's brought up, Mark. I want your take on both of these points, because I think he's right to highlight the Schmeichel comparison in terms of the one-on-ones coming out. I used to feel 50-50 in the Champions League. See, if you see someone going through on goal, and see, to be fair, Caldwell, McManus aren't really people we'd be describing as Champions League quality all the time, albeit they're two guys that, started centre-back and achieved last 16s 2 years in a row. But Boric was exposed at times. I never felt it was an 80-20 chance for the striker to score. I kind of always did feel 50-50. I'm glad Terry sort of mentioned that. It is true, eh? So what's your takeaway for that on the holy goalie?
Well, I think Caldwell and McManus were like the Rocky Horror Show at the back, mate, to be honest with you. I think I would give a lot of respect to any goalkeeper that can keep his concentration when there's players running about in circles in front of him, and he did always feel like he was capable of pulling off saves that you weren't expecting. That's what I think makes a good goalkeeper. I think goalkeepers, when they get to a certain level, when they make mistakes and they react to it, it's a really good way of judging how good they are. But see, when a goalkeeper makes saves that they aren't expecting, it just shows you that they're at a level that even as a football fan, you're not really expecting to be at. I mean, he was at Celtic for a few years, and you're right, he was out on loan for the first season, then we ended up signing him full time, and he won the jersey pretty fast, Bhoycie. And what I will say about David Marshall is I thought he was horrific. I think you're better off with a US Marshall than David Marshall. I was at a game one time and me and my pals.
That is harsh.
No,
I know. Well. See when you're talking about that, Mark, and you're going back to the this is what I'm going to bring to the table is debate and fucking arguing with this Simon Ferry cunt in the right hand corner. See when you go back.
Listen, and the first thing you'll do is let me finish my sentence, right? And then you'll fucking get to disagree with something, okay? You should sit there, right? And when I finish speaking, then you can talk, right?
Right, okay.
Where was that,
Bhoycie asked me, just jumped in and started talking.
What point was that, Bhoycie?
Right, no, I'm going to let Mark finish, but I really apologize.
No, you're not going to let me do nothing, I'm telling you, son. So David Marshall, right? There was a match I was at, and as you know, Bhoycie, I sat up in the top tier, and the time me and Steg got to the top tier, we were 2-0 down, right? It was 3 minutes into the match, and we just happened to ask somebody, and he just said 2 Marshall mistakes. You know what I mean? For me, that summed him up. But forget about David Marshall. Boric, I think. Do you know some of the best memories I've got that kind of era was involved Artur Boric. I can never forget the night against, I think it was Spartak Moscow, the penalty saves. I actually couldn't watch the penalty shoot. I was just standing, just facing the other direction, just watching the crowd. And me, my brother, and my pal Steg again, the three of us have both said that we were all at Barcelona, we were all at big matches for Celtic, and the three say that's straight up there. The atmosphere that night was, I can never forget Tommy Burns. That was right in front of us when he was
Favourite
celebrating.
Celtic European game I've been to.
Do you know something, mate? Do you know, it's controversial saying that, Bhoycie, but see, in terms of just, because I didn't expect us to go through that night. See, I know we scored first. I believe we scored first with Scott McDonald's first goal for the club. But I think, because I think we missed a penalty in extra time. Like Jan Venegoor might have missed a penalty. So I just, my expectations in that penalty shout was low. Even with Artur Boric in goals, I mean, he was always capable of pulling off penalties, saves, and he won that shootout for Celtic. You know, he really did, because I think we missed one as well in this shootout. And I thought the guy, he polarised some of the support with his antics off the field, his fitness and constant badgering Rangers fans, which was funny. But sometimes after big matches, the front page would be Artur Boric in trouble rather than Celtic winning. And sometimes that's what the Scottish press like to do, is deflect away from Celtic's big results. And I thought sometimes he gave the press a wee bit of ammo for him. But all in all, I would agree with Terry, by the way. But I did see Pat Bonner, and so did Dale. Boys, you maybe just missed Pat Bonner, but what I'll say is, see Pat Bonner, he gives me the heebie-jeebies, that guy, even just now.
I was just going to say that, mate. I was going to disagree with you. Terry. He was pissed, man.
I sat in bed even just now. I wake up 2-3 in the morning and I just check my phone to make sure Pat Bonner's retired. Sorry, Terry, mate. I know he's probably a mile down the road for you. I'm sorry, mate, but he was a fucking dumpling, mate. He's an octopus dipped in soya sauce.
Terry,
Like that and all that. I don't
Terry,
know.
I want your take on this, mate. Has Mark Kearney been over harsh? Has Judge Kearney crept out already, mate?
I mean,
sorry, Terry.
When I think of Pat Bonner, for me, he was the last Celtic goalkeeper that I can remember coming and taking cross balls.
Steady.
Yeah.
Steady Eddie.
And he's probably more remembered for some of his performances in World Cups and things like that, and European Championships. But there was one particular game, and if either of you think he was no good, you can watch it back again. It was the day Ireland beat England 1-0. Ray Houghton scored the goal, and he must have made about 5 world-class saves from Gary Lineker.
Oh yeah, he had that in his locker. It was undoubtable he's a good goalkeeper, and he did have that in his locker, Terry. I mean, maybe I was a bit harsh on him by saying he was like an octopus dipped in soya sauce. What I just meant was there's some players that, even goalkeepers, that you know they're capable in levels that you're not expecting. But I just remember, and I didn't like Stuart Kerr. For me, was a bad goalkeeper. He was one of the guys that's just got a framed shirt on his wall, and he just tells his grand wains that he played for Celtic. But even for him, even that guy was a relief for me when he came into. Bear in mind, I probably saw the last 3 or 4 years of Pat Bonner. I think the guy was a celebrity as much as he was a football player for Celtic. I think he was a bit of an icon.
That's what I was going to say, mate. Maybe falls into that iconic bracket rather than being a good player.
Am I not right in thinking that Pat Bonner, though, probably the era you can remember him, Mark, was brought back for Kilmarnock because Tommy Burns left Kilmarnock to go to Celtic?
No, I don't think he did go to Kilmarnock, mate.
He did, mate. He was going to Kilmarnock. Aye.
That was Gordon Marshall. Am I right?
Gordon Marshall played for Kilmarnock in Motherwell.
I think his full career. He was actually Jock Stein's last signing. So he was.
Oh, I'm going to Google it right now. I know I'm right.
I was going to jump in there and say who I thought was wrong, but Bhoycie's on the Google, so I'm not going to make a cunt of myself and just wait until I see
You better have to that. Reserve your judgment. I think Bono was a one club player.
I think so as well, mate.
He might be wrong, mate.
I don't think he did leave, but did he?
Nah, he didn't leave.
The only thing that
because Tommy Bunce came to Celtic, so he kept him.
He didn't go to Kilmarnock though.
Pat Bonner at the World Cup as a free agent went on to agree to join his great friend Tommy Bunce at Kilmarnock. But when Bunce got the Celtic job, he brought Bonner back as player coach. That's the Celtic wiki, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
If you know your history,
I wouldn't have got that one right.
You're fucking wrong then. Fucking forehead Cypher, you're fucking wrong.
Listen, you're going to back me up that deal before you found that he'd Google.
I was backing you up all the way, mate. I was backing you up all the way. Made a cunt.
But instead of talking about Pat Bonner and his career at Legia Warsaw, that never actually happened. We were playing a team, Terry, for Poland tonight, and whilst it's been nice to reminisce about Arta Boric, what's your takeaways for the game? I'll be completely honest, this next wee segment about the first half is over to use because I was working. Usually I can kind of get away with multitasking. I was under the cosh today, so sadly, I only kind of started paying attention to the game about 3 minutes before Maida scored. So I missed the Tati's goal. I've seen the replay. Fair enough. What was your takeaway, Terry? What was your takeaway for the first half, mate?
Narrative for me was pretty much similar to Saturday. First 10 minutes, really slow out of the blocks. We didn't concede, but we conceded 3 opportunities in that first 10 minutes that could have been goals. At least 2 of those were coming down the left-hand side. I felt we were a little bit exposed down our left-back area. Then after 10 minutes, for the next 35 in the first half, we came on to a really good game. We were knocking the ball about. We were creating chances. Thought sort of final third, we were playing little triangles, nice little passes, moves, and the pressing from the front 3 and the sort of 2 forward-thinking midfielders, Tati and O'Reilly, we were getting winning lots of possession back when Legia were trying to play out. And yeah, got to half time, and I thought we were in relatively good position, comfortable, leading the game and looking good, the same way as we have done in the last few pre-season games. We've looked good at half time, and then obviously come out for the second half, we start to make changes, and the game kind of falls to a bit of an arse. You mentioned there about Maeda, so he took his goal well. It was quite composed, but about 10 minutes before that, he had another slash at one when he was playing through, and I was thinking, here we go again. You know, he's just, I don't know, he's trying to burst the net, but with the goal that he got, he was quite composed, and it was a good finish. Hatati's goal was excellent. It kind of reminded me of one that Kyogo got last season, where he sort of, he's watching the ball coming over his shoulder and he hooks it past the keeper. Great ball from Callum McGregor. So a lot of positives. Second half,
Jerry, let's take away what you've said in the first half, because I think it's easier to do it bit by bit, mate.
Of course.
And I'm going to ask you one more question about the Maeda finish. Would you be happy him as your third choice striker? The only thing I can say is I'm not familiar with the miss you've seen, but see, when I seen him get that finish, I thought, not another one going to prove me wrong yet again. Which, I'm beginning to realise I get more wrong than right these days, Terry, apparently. But that Maeda finish on the left peg, I just thought it was so natural. I thought, he's not always looked as natural a finisher as that, in my opinion. And that's where my reservations have came from as a third choice striker. Going into the season, a Champions League season, I'll keep reminding people that, because it's the premier competition in world club football. We're getting a chance to compete at that level. If Giakoumakis and Kyogo is out, have you seen enough from, the competitive fixtures in particular, or has there been a turnaround in your opinion during pre-season that Maeda could be that guy that you can move him in from the wide and play him up top as a replacement? If push
that's where we're at right now. He is our third choice. So if the first 2 aren't available, he is. That's where he played today, and he played for a period there at the weekend. The chance he missed would make me. I'm on the fence. I suppose when I looked at his goal record coming from Japan, you don't score that many goals without being able to finish. But I don't know if he's trying too hard. He just looks as if he's trying to absolutely rip the net with every sort of opportunity that he gets. But the finish that he did take was composed and
really nice.
I think unless we bring somebody in, and I'm not convinced that we will bring somebody in up front. I've said that before. I don't think we will. I think we'll be going with what we've got, and at the moment he is number 3.
Yeah, I think Maggie does. I think Maggie does. What we see is what we get. I think that's what he's got in his arsenal, Bhoycie. I think he'll get that goal in 5 chances. I think he misses the ones that look easy and he puts over the bar and he puts by the post. I just think that's the type of player he is. He's been vocal about it himself that his pace makes him the dangerous player that he is. He's maybe not the most skillful guy. He's maybe not good in the air. He's maybe not good in the tackle, but his pace terrifies fucking teams 100%. That's what he's got. As a number 3 striker, if Kyogo and Giamakis are injured, I would be very, very worried. Very worried getting into SPSL. Yeah, 100%.
I want to take the point that you've made there. I'll come back to you on this because I think what I find with his quality wide, I don't get me wrong, I think he looks just a more comfortable footballer there. And I like that. And I think he's an asset for Celtic. I think he's the profile of player Ange wants in his final third. Right? I think he just fits everything Ange is wanting for the team. Now he does kind of embodies it. The only issue you've got is then obviously the final bits of quality. See, for me, I think you're spot on to say it's that 1-in-5 ratio.
Yeah.
I would prefer his 1-in-5 ratio to be a dangerous ball in the box. Just my takeaway because Didier Agat reminds me, Didier Agat was meant to be a centre forward. As we're kind of told Maeda was, when you look back at it, Maeda was the top scorer in the J League. You thought, how many has he missed over there? But that's a different story. It's not like criticism, boy, by the way, before everyone gets all up at it, we'll try to slag him off as well. But what I will say about Maeda is, I think he could go on to be not the same. He's not going to be a wing back, although I would trust him at wing back. We don't play that formation. But whilst he's out wide, would you not prefer that 1-in-5 ratio, Dale? Which I think you're not wrong with what you're saying. But rather than that being him in front of goal, which is always going to, it's going to really like be very poignant if that happens, right? Would you know rather it was his 1-in-5 delivery? Because tell you what, ask Henrik Larsson, and he says in his book and things like that. Larsson said, like, Didier Agat was probably got more assists for me than any other player in his career. And you think, how many could that have been? Well, anyway, that's a different conversation. But I always think Didier Agat, because of his pace, because of the physical weapons that he's got in his arsenal, as you were talking about, that allowed Didier Agat to get in these positions more than it allows the average Joe. But up front, I just think you can end up almost getting a wee bit crucified for it because it's goal-scoring opportunities, XG and all that shit these days, Del. That's why I'm more comfortable about wide. But you've said you'd be pretty worried with him being the third-choice striker.
Aye, it's a very good point you make in regards to him playing out wide. And obviously we've got Abada and Jota in their positions as well. If Giamakis and Kyogo are fit for the full season, then Maeda doesn't play through the middle at all. I don't see him having any impact playing as a number 9, a number 10, whatever it may be. He's a wide player for me.
I think so.
If Kyogo and Giamakis are fit, then Maeda plays out wide. He terrorises Scotland this season. His assists will be astronomical, the same as Jota this year. And with Giamakis and Kyogo in the middle of the park, then they're going to get so many goals this year with that guy. And talking about pre-season, and obviously I'll jump on to Mark. He's been sitting there fucking choking to say something, but
I must say, I love mate.
I know. I think that the pre-season, other than the first game, which was an absolute walkover, I think for the Rapid Vienna game, up until the Blackburn Rovers game, it's been relatively same, Mark. I've not really seen too much of a difference. Kind of very good first half. Kind of your strongest 11, moving into the second half, and then that's when we start to see the cracks in the ground, and we struggle a wee bit. So,
Mark, I'm going to tee that up a wee bit more because
right, okay, mate.
I've got half a schedule that I've kind of tried to organise right for the night. You know, it's rough. That's how we operate on the bus. But I was 100% going to say, I've actually found me and Terry have spoken this before. I found the pre-season games we went for quite refreshing. Now, I know Conor McCann was pilloried by some smart arses that it wouldn't be a sellout this game. Well, it was more of a sellout than the game at the weekend at home. I've liked the challenging environment Celtic have put themselves in pre-season, Mark, and I actually think these matches do stand us in good stead. I think for me, the amazing thing is that's really, really shone through is how important it is to qualify for the Champions League, Mark Kearney. Now, people can say, and you know what? I have used stats that I've went, you know, how many times have we won the league in the last 21 years? 16. Does that mean we couldn't get in as a second place team a few of those years as well? Aye, it does. Is that, you know, you could count on in one hand how many times Celtic since the turn of the millennium hasn't had the chance to make the Champions League. Are we not now seeing the benefits of not only getting the coefficient up, qualifying for the Champions League, winning your league, but you also it made me empathise a wee bit more in terms of how difficult these games are to negotiate at this stage of the season. Mark, we're normally into our competitive fixture list by now. The difference is Celtic have picked competitive fixtures, but they're friendlies.
I think, well, to be honest with you, I thought the Blackburn game, I felt tonight's game, and I also felt what was the game we won 4-2 away? What was it called?
Australia.
I thought the three of them could have easily have been comparable with a European qualifier in terms of their opponents.
Correct.
So I think Celtic
Same
can.
Good shout, mate. Good shout.
I think they teed it up to a certain way because you've got to hit a stride, you know what I mean, before you can get to your gallop. And I think Celtic were trying to get themselves going from day one. And I feel like the level of opponents has been good. And actually, fun enough, I agree with you, Bhoycie. I think I'd rather play in a stadium that holds 20,000 with 15,000 fans there, with still intimidating atmosphere, than playing at Celtic Park with 11,000 fans that holds 60,000. I think there's a different edge to playing in a stadium that is 3/4 full rather than 3/4 empty.
I agree
with that point. And I think the level of opponents we've played is, as I say, comparable with European qualifiers. And to be quite honest with you, boys, there is only a handful of seasons. I'd probably say maybe 3 seasons out of 21 we've got a chance to qualify, which is ridiculous. I'm not going down that road now. But what I've noticed, just to pick up on Uncle Fester's point there about the first and second half, we can't go into the first half. I think the first 10 minutes is really good because although we've been inviting pressure on and we've looked shaky, apart from Blackburn, we haven't lost goals in the first 10 minutes. So there's something good about that, you know what I mean? So we've been able to handle that pressure, that stupid, and lead laughing, that stupid fucking, that mistakes we make for the press. It did look a bit shaky at the beginning, but we've managed to come through it and we've found a level and we've just kicked on and I think in most games we took the lead. So I appreciate what Dale's point. I think the first half we find our level and we play our football. But it's no coincidence that the second half we drop off. And the main reason we're dropping off is because the players we're bringing on aren't at the same level as the ones that were previously on the park. The football isn't just about pressing buttons and making subs. I know players have to get into a stride, they have to get a few touches of the ball before they can just pass on. It's no football manager or whatever it is. It takes time. I know I get people that play computer games. I was just trying to make a point there. And so I appreciate that. I do appreciate that players can't just come on. In fact, I used to think that Carl McGregor used to be a brilliant sub. I thought he could come on and just play the football like he hadn't been off the park. But so I do take that into account, but I do feel like the second half drop-off is more to do with the players we've got in the park rather than any other excuses.
Terry,
the only thing I would say about that tonight, if you look at 3 of the guys that come on at halftime, it was Juranovic, Jota, and Kyogo.
Well, can I say something about Juranovic, mate? And I get pilled for this. I think, listen. Listen, there's not been one performance this pre-season, not one performance this pre-season that you would pick Juranovic over Ralston. And see, if you did, you'd be basing that on the fact that he's a Croatian internationalist, as everybody says. That is the first thing they say. That is when you question Ralston and Juranovic's credentials, before you even get to their abilities on the ball, the first sentence will contain the phrase Croatian internationalist. The Croatian right back.
It's been spoke about so many times, innit? And you're 100% right. Bhoycie's mentioned it before as well, and I'll totally agree with you, even though you called me Uncle Fester, you wee prick.
I was talking about Terror. I was talking about Terror.
Oh, yeah, I thought you were talking about me because my baldy cunt.
Don't be so sensitive, Del.
I would no, mate. I'm fine, mate. I'm fucking thick-skinned, the same as there, Mr. Boyce. I would totally agree with you, mate. 100%. That Tony Ralston. I don't see any reason in the Aberdeen game that he doesn't start at right back. I totally agree with you. I understand the narrative.
Glad you says that, mate.
I understand the narrative of the Croatian right back, and I'm one of the guys, mate. He's a Croatian international. He's played in the World Cup. He's played in the Euros. He's this and he's that. But performance-wise, Tony Ralston should start against Aberdeen. People might disagree with that, and your narrative is 100% correct, mate, in regards to what country this guy's played for in World Cups and stuff. But Tony Ralston's been absolutely superb pre-season, mate, and Aberdeen flag day for me. He starts right back, 100%, mate.
See if he plays, Dale. For me, that'll be a really good signal that players are getting games for form rather than reputation.
Yes, mate. Yes, and that's a very, very good point, and that's what we hope Ange Postecoglou's bringing to the table, because if Matt O'Reilly's playing well next year, then he plays all the time, and David Turnbull sits in his arse. If Tony Ralston's playing well, Juranovic sits in his fucking arse. If this guy that's come in for France plays well, then Starfelt sits in his arse. I really do hope that's how Ange Postecoglou picks his team. He's got.
I'm going to go back. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to go back to Terry, because Terry's actual point was more about whether our personal preference about Ralston and Juranovic. And can I just say, I'll thirdly agree with you two lads.
And I'm for. I said it last week.
It's Juranovic behind Ralston for me at this moment in time. Prove me wrong. I've got no issue with that. I think it's the healthiest competition you can see on the two areas of the park, is right back and up front. End of story. And we're all going to end up falling out about it. But it's the best way, because if you're falling out about it, it's because there's real quality. There's a real debate to be had. I'm all for that. But what Terry was trying to make the point of was not just about one area. He spoke about Kyogo and Jota coming on. So I think we've still not quite seen, Terry, Celtic's first, just to back up what I'm trying to say, their first 11 quite just yet, have we? I'm not convinced we have. I don't think Ange's actually went all out yet, Terry, and picked his, the one that he's hanging his hat on, strongest 11. I think it'd be remiss maybe to do that in pre-season as well. The one thing about a first team, right, is not always about the 11 personnel, Terry. It's about how all the pieces of the puzzle all combine. How do they all work together? Now, I actually think Hatate's form, for example, the second half of last season, after his month when he burst on the scene, I thought, no, I don't want to be overly harsh, but I thought he fell off a cliff a wee bit, right? But that's maybe a bit of a dramatic way to describe it. But when you seen O'Reilly and Rogic together, probably the two guys in form and very much in vogue at that time, neither of them, right? Neither of them were, in my opinion, a combination I would ever want to see in a Celtic jersey again, which is interesting because form-wise, maybe those two would. So I think we need to be careful, Terry, with it can't just be the 11 best people. And I get Mark's point, by the way, but I also take yours on board where you go, Jota, Kyogo and Juranovic do probably start in Ange's best 11. And is there more reasons to that than just who's on the best form? He's got to make sure the pieces of his puzzle are all in tandem as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, I don't think there's anybody I'll disagree that, well, Jota and Kyogo are in the first 11 or are very close to the first 11. I think they're in the first 11, to be fair. The Ralston one, I'm 4 out of 4. If you're picking the team now for Aberdeen, it has to be Ralston. I think the point I was trying to make, which you've came in
Sorry,
on,
Terry, I
is-
didn't realise you were. I didn't realise I'd cut you off halfway through your
No,
point
mate,
there.
no. The point I was trying to make was those 3 guys coming on shouldn't really be a drop off from what we had in the first half, because those are 3 very, very capable players. So the drop off in the second half wasn't just because of the standard of the player that we brought on, because 3 of those players you would expect, certainly 2 of them to be in the first 11. But I think it's more just with these games, when you make so many changes, the game just loses momentum, and it's hard for the guys that have come on to try and get involved. I mean, Jota was quiet, Kyogo was quiet. The other guys that come on, I think McCarthy gave the ball away as soon as he came on, which led to a goal. The game just gets so disjointed, and it's no coincidence that this second half drop off in these friendly games has been a regular feature. I think one thing as well, just to call out, and I did mention on Saturday that CCV he just hadn't looked his sort of normal assured self, and I think it's only fair, because if that was Julian that got ragdolled tonight, I would have been calling it out, that there's Julian again, he's got muscled out. Yeah, it's a friendly.
I think you can say that. I think you're allowed to say that. You're allowed to criticise.
Of course, yeah. Of
See the
course, yeah.
point that see the goal that you lose, you can criticise and you can say that was his mistake. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I agree with you. It's about perception about Carter, because I think if it was Starfelt, there would have been a lot more kind of people being vocal about it. Can I just say something about McCarthy? Do you notice he's been a lot more aggressive the last couple of appearances? Maybe he's been.
He probably would have got a red. He probably would have got a red in competitive game.
I think so in both games.
Great challenge, really good challenge, man.
No,
but is he trying so hard? Is he just trying so hard to try and get himself into this side? If he thinks we're lacking a hard man, he wants to become that hard man, because that might be his avenue into the team.
I think he's doing that to try and make himself be that, because I think everybody knows that we're crying out for somebody. I think people call it an enforcer, and I think he's the last couple of games, maybe his fitness has been up to a level where he feels like he's able to go into challenges like that now. And I felt the last couple of games he could have probably actually had 2 red cards. I no lie, but I feel like he's trying to just win over that battle of looking for the enforcer. If he was a Rangers player putting in challenges like that, he'd be the captain by September.
I don't think that's a wrong point he's making. But what you can also flip it with is, whilst we're never going to have, John Gregg, for example, is our greatest ever player, right? I mean, we've got Jinky Johnson, Henrik Larsson's not even our greatest ever player. It's Jinky Johnson. But look at what they both bring. They both bring football skills beyond the norm, right? Their best player ever is John Gregg. But I also believe there's a happy medium, Dale, right? There's a happy medium. Mm-hmm. I think fans are worried about the second half drop-off. I don't get too caught up in the preseason stuff, right? I get caught up in the transfer window, preseason games. I don't get that's not my obsession. My obsession in the summer is always the recruitment aspect until the real games kick in, and then you've got to combine that with whatever's remaining of the window. But my caveat right now is I am bothered. That's my I'm bothered with the recruitment and where that drive is going. And I would say, as an outsider looking in, people might not like it, but Ange has to add some more physicality to that team. Now, I don't want them just to be hammer throwers, and they can just, because they're big and they're a lump or whatever, that means we need that. That's not what I'm saying. But I definitely think there's a different physical profile that's going to be required in this Celtic side. There needs to be more balance, in my opinion, in terms of physical profile than what there is now. Maybe James McCarthy is trying to fill that role. Maybe, just maybe, he's been told that's the only way you'll be in this team is if you can be that guy. I don't mean told that in a negative way, Dale, but maybe like Ange just went, there could be a role for you if you impress enough, but it would need to be as that, you know what I mean, type of midfielder. I don't mind that.
Yep, definitely, mate. I think that most Celtic fans are crying out for that defensive midfield player, and the argument has always been get into the Champions League and and the midfielders that we have with McGregor, Hatate, Gucci, McCarthy, O'Reilly, and guys like that is who do you bring in that a player that comes in that who do you drop out the first team getting this Champions League group? And me and you spoke about it, boys, so that Moy comes in. I do like Moy. I remember watching him in the Premiership, and he was a kind of all action, hard tackling guy. Does he make a massive, massive difference to what we have now? I don't really think so. But I do think that he will be one of the players. I think he's very, very, very well suited to Celtic. I really, really do. I think just the way he plays football, the way he goes about, the way he's tackling, I think he's kind of box to box. I think he'll surprise a lot of people.
I hope so.
I'm not going to be surprised with him because I genuinely do like him as a football player. I really do like him as a football player. Do we go into a very, very tough Champions League group and drop Hatate and play Moy and he makes a massive difference? I don't think so. But being realistic, Celtic, Scotland and where we are and being realistic about European football and money and where we are, who do we go and get? It's a very, very, very thin line. We can't go out and spend mega money to make a difference in a Champions League group. On the flip side of that, you look at teams that are in the Champions League that have made waves in the last few years. We should be making the waves. We're a massive football club, and it's such a fine line. And as we all know, as Celtic fans, fucking even Rangers fans, Man U fans, we're very, very fickle. We're very, very hard to please. Very, very hard to please. But the money we've brought in, the transfers, the Champions League money, we should be spending a lot more fucking money and bringing in a lot more quality. I'm happy to a certain extent, but we should be pushing the bar so much fucking higher. And
I'm shaking myself.
And respecting the fucking fans and how much money we're pumping into the club.
Well, Terry, I'm coming to you because I think Dell's now struck us for our last segment of the show. I think it's brilliant what Dell just said there. I am not disputing, right? Aaron Moy has been a good player, may well still be a good player. I've not watched the Chinese league in the last 2
fucking Doug.
Or his 24 games. Right, I'll meet you the new Dell. So what I'm going to do is look at Aaron Moy once I see him in a Celtic jersey, make my mind up then. What my point will always be is I know for a fact, right, and anyone can argue with this all you want, Celtic didn't budget for the Champions League. They budget for the Europa League, right? And that is pretty common knowledge. They budget for the Europa League every year, Terry, right? So see when you get a bonus £40 million, now it's over to you. And when you make option to buy signings on 2 £6 million players last year, yes, it's 6 million this summer. That's what people see, right? You're not allowed to restrict trade, Terry, right? And go and restrict a player's potential earnings by having a Spurs, Brighton and Hove Albion, for example, right? To be unable to make a bid for a player that could earn Benfica more money, earn the player more money, because we've got this first option, but we actually could never afford it. We only did that on the basis to qualify for the Champions League. I don't think that's actual fair practice. So I'm pretty sure we had to have that money then. That's not just the point, though. The point of the matter is, see, when you go into the Champions League, a player's not going to be better because they're free or because they cost 10 million. I'm not telling anyone that. But what I would like to see, regardless of that, is if we get an Aaron Moyna free because the manager deep down, that's who he wants the most for that position, fine. I want to know what other levels of recruitment, Terry, we're going to go to then with the rest of that money. Because see that money sitting in reserve, it's not good to me, Terry. It's not good to you coming over when you get the chance to come over. And it's not benefiting the team in the park. Now, you only need to look at the conservative approach Celtic has took in the last 21 years, Terry, to realise for the amount of opportunities we've had at the Champions League, the few amount of times we've even qualified for it, let alone made any dent in it. Gordon Strachan twice last 16, Neil Lennon once. That's 3 out of 21 years. We must be the only club in that during those 21 years who have turned over £100 million on a couple of occasions. This isn't us trying to be critical. There is more time in this window left, Terry. But would you agree? It's only fair, mate, for us to go, well, see, once we're in that Champions League, the majority of this bonus money we've made that you didn't budget for was spent on the team. And don't tell me Ange ever settles for, well, I've got my favourite 11 now. Oh, just keep your 20 million. There's not one manager in the world, Terry, who's ever said that. Is there?
I'll touch on the Aaron Moy bit first of all, and my take on that. If we're getting the Aaron Moy, who played in the English Premiership, and he's got the same energy, the same hunger, the same desire, the same determination, then he'll do a job for us. He's a kind of 3-in-1 player in that he can play the 6, he can play the 8, he can play the 10. The bit that confuses me around the signing is that about 4 days before it was announced that Moy was signing, Ange Postecoglou gave the impression that Aaron Moy was not someone that would be coming to Celtic. So I don't know what changed from that interview that he gave. Was he trying to push somebody into action, or
money, Terry?
Eh?
It was money, my friend.
Because
they found out that the other boy was 3.5 million and he was free. Carry on, sorry, mate, but that was the point. It's money.
Yeah, but what Ange said to us previously is he doesn't tell lies in these interviews. He was asked continuously about Kyogo coming back. He says, "Look, I don't tell lies. He's not fit. He's not going to be fit for weeks." Blah blah blah. But he gave the impression in that interview that Aaron Moy was not someone who would be coming into Celtic. Yet 4 or 5 days later, Aaron Moy was announced as a Celtic player. But putting that one to one side, in terms of going out to get players, I think what we need to ask ourselves as a club is, have we gone out and got the best players that are available to us? As Celtic supporters, we just assume that every player is going to want to sign for us, and that's not the case. But there are players out there who could be convinced to come and play for us if we sell them the move in the right way. Have we tooled up for an attempt on the Champions League this year? Given that our starting 11 is going to be the same as last year and we weren't able to compete in the Conference League, you would have to say no. Yep. Have we ever really tooled up in the last 20 years for any attempts on the Champions League? You're probably going to be hard pushed to say yes in any of those. We've got an opportunity this year where we've gone straight into the group stages. If we win the league next year, we'll also go straight into the group stages. This is an opportunity for us to speculate and to try to make some level of progress in Europe. Yep. I'm probably one of these supporters who has kind of always thought, yeah, do you know what, the European nights, the pressure's kind of off. It's the domestic stuff that's more important. But see, the more that I sit and think about it, if I think back over my life watching Celtic, and I'm picking out my favourite games, my best experiences over the time I've been supporting the club, which is 35, 36 years. All the ones at the top are all European experiences. They're all Champions League games. They're all games against your English opposition, your Italian opposition, your Spanish opposition. They're the experiences that still live with you. You don't remember all the games where you had victories against Rangers or stuff like that. The ones that really stick out for me are the European ones. And whenever you're having any conversation around Celtic and Celtic's greatest achievement, it's always the Lisbon Lions. But are we going to be, well, we'll not be sitting here in 100 years' time, but will fellow Celtic fans be sitting in 100 years' time and they're still talking about the Lisbon Lions because there's not really been anything else in between times that's ever got anywhere close to that. And I think it's very easy for us to sit and say, the gap's too big, it can't be done, but we still have to do the absolute best that we can do. And I was sort of sitting thinking today, I was thinking just over a few things, and if the likes of Bertie Auld in the tunnel that night in the European Cup final, if he was just to stand in the tunnel and take a look around and go, we've done well to get here, or we shouldn't be in the same pitch as these guys, or this is too much, or it doesn't really matter if we lose in Europe. We wouldn't have won the cup that night, but they didn't. Those guys just were out there. They didn't care about reputations. They didn't care about who they were playing against, the situation. They just went out and they done it. And we have to, as a club, give ourselves the best opportunity of making inroads into whatever you're.
Terry, sorry, but how can we do that? How can we do that? Sorry,
So I'm
how
going
can we
to,
do
Mark,
that?
I'm going to come to you, mate. I'm going to come to you,
Oh,
mate. You're next. You're next, mate.
Sorry, Bhoycie, mate. Sorry, you go, Terry, mate. You better, mate.
No, I'm going to come to you,
We've
mate.
just got to give ourselves the best chance that we possibly can, Mark, and that's to go out and bring in the best players that we're able to get.
Yep. So, Mark,
need to spend the money to do it. Need to spend the money to do it, man.
Mark, on the basis of what Terry said, this is what the counter argument is. I love Kieran. Kieran watches almost every Bhoycie bass. He's part of the bass. I love Kieran. But I'm going to have to disagree with him here. And you know what? This is with the conditioning, Mark, that me and you have spoken about before. I don't want us spending 100 million. How is it getting to 100 million? We've all just accepted there's an extra 40. We know the club don't budget for, Mark. This is a known fact. They budget for Europa League money, which, by the way, when you've won 16 out of the last 21 years, you shouldn't be doing if you progress properly, right? But, okay, that's one argument. However, no one is asking Celtic to do a Rangers and go bust. No one is asking this football club to spend £100 million, as Kieran's alluding to there. There's no happy medium right now. The facts, Mark, and I'm going to let you take it away here, but the facts are Celtic are spending probably slightly lesser transfer fees than they were 21 years ago for a competition that provides them with about treble the rewards. Right? Celtic also have had more access in the last 21 years to compete in either qualifiers, playoff rounds, or direct group stage than at any other time in their, I don't know, since it became a cash cow, shall we say. So since the turn of the millennium, I always kind of looked to, because it was an unfair rivalry in the 90s. But when you look for since 2001, because O'Neill's first year, we had Bordeaux put us out in the UEFA Cup second round. We weren't ready for it. Since 2001, that's 21 seasons. 21 seasons, 16 title wins, or 15 title wins, something like that, 15 or 16, right? How many times, even when we finished second, did we get a chance to be in this competition? Mark, the writing's on the wall. No one's asking Celtic to go bust. No one's asking Celtic to spend beyond their means. But what I am asking is Celtic to start realising their wage structure is dated. It is a pastime. Their transfer spend is dated, and it's a pastime. And the only way we generate more money as a football club is if in the next 21 years we qualify for the Champions League 16 out of those 21. That's how you do it.
Well, I think we've got a fan base that have got a ready-made excuse for the board anyway, boys. So you've got a fan base that are ready to back the board in terms of that comment, 100 million. Nobody's wanting 100 million being spent. I don't think 100 million was the difference between us signing the striker that went to Hedenveen, the top goal scorer on Holland. We lost that guy for £500 a week. Okay, let that sink in before I carry on.
Bogerson.
Right, £500 a week. We lost a guy out of the top goal scorer on Holland. Right. So we don't expect anybody to spend £100 million. If your fan base is letting a club stand still, then the fan base is actually giving the club excuses for a start. Now we've got, I'd say we've got circa £30 to £35 million minimum that wasn't in the accounts to be. It wasn't projected. Put it that way, it was a bonus because the club don't predict Champions League money, so it's a bonus. So I dare say it's all bonus money, and as Bhoycie said, Maeda, Carter Vickers and Jota was already agreed with last year's budget, because you can't restrict trade and hold back clubs and players from making more money. You just can't do that ethically. Well, Bhoycie, it's for two reasons. One, it goes against the argument, or two, it's just ignorant of the facts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't. Look, I was going to say to Terry, if you support your customer, I'm going to call them customers because that's what we are just now. We're customers, right? That's why they're treating us by charging us £91 for a bag of wine gums. How can you expect your customers to hold your board to account when the customers are giving excuses out for the board left, right, and centre? Now, I've been told a few times on Twitter tonight. I don't care. Say what I want to me. I've been told a few times on Twitter tonight that Celtic have got enough to win the league. No problem. In fact, somebody told me that somebody told me that our B team's got enough to go to St Mirren Park and win. Well, our first team went to St Mirren Park and couldn't beat their under-19s last season in December. You know, and am I convinced that we will see Kyogo and Giacomakis fit at all times next season? Absolutely not. I'll be flabbergasted. Do I expect Turnbull not to pick up niggles? They've both been injured for about 3 seasons, give or take spells in between.
Big spells.
Hatate has been absolutely phenomenal pre-season. I think this boy's going to kick on.
Yep.
But he's played a lot of football in the last 2 years. Let's get that right. So we're going to have spells in this season where our top players are out. And do I expect Celtic to keep the same 11 week in, week out? No, I'm going to go one further. I expect Celtic to have a better 11 than they did last year. And a better 11 last year isn't 11 players progressing on the park. A better 11 last year is saying, can we afford £7 million for a new left back? I know we've got Burnley, but he looks like a project to me. Yes, we can. Can
He's
we
bigger
afford
than you,
to,
Matt. He's bigger than you.
Do you know something, Dale? I really don't. I was being serious. I would like to know the level that he's playing at before because he looks extremely raw. He actually reminds me.
He does, mate. He does. I'd agree.
He looks very, very raw. And Raw's
He
fine,
does.
mate. Raw's fine. I'm actually not too concerned about Taylor. Greg Taylor can stay in left back for me at the moment. I'm not that concerned about Greg Taylor, but for me, it just highlighted the fact that Celtic and the Celtic support are just happy with the status quo.
Yeah.
And see if you give that board one bit of leeway. Listen, see the support that's happy just now. Do me a favour. See in December, in the worst case scenario, and we're lying behind Rangers in the league. Don't go up there and start flinging sharks at the team bus. Remember, there's an element of their support that's got to deserve every fucking kick of the ball. We want to improve. We want to improve our first 11. And see if there's anybody who want to improve that team, they're holding us back as a club. Simple as that.
I would just like to say, son, boys, I know you're kind of wanting to wrap it up, but just before we go on, I understand Mark's frustrations, and I tend to agree with quite a lot of what Mark says. That his opinions are the substance behind them is very good. He's always got a bit of concrete behind it. He knows what he's talking about. But
he does.
We as a club, Dermot Desmond's still at the top of the fucking mountain. Dermot Desmond's still the puppet master. He's the guy that Nicholson and whoever else is fucking. They're playing to his strings. The other thing other than Dermot Desmond is, obviously Celtic's one of the biggest football clubs in the world, but we're a Scottish club. We need to remember that. We need to remember that these teams in France and Spain and England and Germany and all these other clubs have got so much. I don't think we should ever compare ourselves to anybody. Glasgow Celtic is a separate entity. I just think sometimes the being realistic and being optimistic as Celtic fans is so far apart, and the money that we can pay out and the attraction. I think the attraction, boys, is the big thing. That we think sometimes that we should be getting players coming into our club. So these guys don't want to play in Scotland. They don't want to come to fucking Scottish football. That's sometimes the biggest barrier. That sometimes is the biggest barrier.
In the Champions League, mate, in my opinion, on a regular basis, not as a one-off. That would be my argument against that. We've proved that. And I believe, Del, genuinely, the standard of player sounded Claxon and the Martin O'Neill's team, right? Chris Sutton was a 2-time Golden Boot winner in England, as well as a Premier League winner. Joined us at 27 years old without the Champions League.
Yeah, okay, so we're going backwards. We're going backwards, saying that's the way it looks. But I think in the flip side of that is money. It's money.
Job is defined, Del, by hitting your KPIs, and we're going to go to money on this. You see your KPIs, your key performance indicators, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
Key performance indicator. Aye, right. See your KPIs, right? Have Celtic hit them with the strike rate they've had of qualifying for the Champions League since the turn of the millennium?
No, definitely not.
Right. So what does that lead to? I would estimate Celtic has not managed to pull in. I guesstimate would be between 250 to 300 million pounds we've missed on in non-qualification for a competition we at least were at qualifying level for. We were in the qualifier. We were in, our name was in the hat enough times for the amount of times we didn't make the final cut to have cost the club 250 to 300 million. During that time, we have had the highest paid CEO in the UK. Yet you just told us, and I agree with you, we can't compare ourselves with the big league.
We
So
can't.
how can we have CEOs that get paid more than them then? But we can't
I
have
know.
players that even get a quarter.
I understand that, and I think that what one of your quotes the other day was one of your quotes the other day, and even though if it's some ciders and lagers the day, I did remember. If another company came in and offered you 40 grand more, you would go.
Of course
That's where we really struggle as a Scottish club, and that's where we struggle to attract these players. On you go, Mark. On you go, mate.
Sorry, mate. See as well, we're a club, but Dermot Desmond, you mentioned, our second biggest shareholder is a umbrella company. I think they're called Linsell Train. Basically, it's like a hedge fund for people who they send money into Asda, Tesco, fucking Argos. You take my money and you invest it any way you want. They want big dividends for their money. So if our second biggest shareholder are shareholders who are wanting financial gain from the club, which isn't all that common in football, believe it or not. If your second biggest shareholder isn't there for emotional reasons, they're there to make money in a country the size of Scotland and the population of Scotland and the money it brings, that stinks to me, because what that does is that puts even more financial pressure on the board of directors and the non-executive directors, who have to overlook what we are doing on a financial basis and scrutinise it. What that does is that holds you back from going to that next level of player. Can we afford £50,000 a week? Yes, we can. Two reasons why. We were paying it in 2001, and we were also given a press. Nakamura was getting 90 grand a week at Celtic.
Yep.
So we can afford it, Dale. It's just we're not progressing with the times.
We've got to be clever. It wasn't his salary, but what his revenue is equated to that if you were to divide it up per week.
I think that brings in kind of image rights and stuff like that. I think Nakamura back in the day was the highest paid player in Celtic Football Club. I think Nakamura was in 55 grand. People could go on Twitter and all that, and I'll meet you at the Superstore at 4 p.m. if need be. But I think Nakamura was on 50 grand plus in regards to like image rights and stuff like that. And of course we can afford it, Mark, 100%.
I think so too.
Going back to like getting these players in and the fans being so unhappy. Terry, do you think Celtic as a club go this year with the Champions League money, the KT, the Dembele, and all these transfer fees, and go and attract guys and give them 45, 50 grand a week and try and be a European force? Or sit in your arse and just be a Dermot Desmond puppet boy and be happy paying £800 for a season ticket?
Yeah, over to Terry.
No, I think you try to build it. So we're in the group this stage, and you bring in the best quality of player that you can get. Then you get into the group again next year, and you start to accumulate that money on a regular basis. And as you go along, you build and you build. And I agree with what Bhoycie says. If you're in this Champions League group stage, that opens up another level of player. But if you're in the Champions League group stages year on year, and you're starting to beat other teams, you're starting to get points in the Champions League, then you're opening up another level of player again. So I think it's something gradual that we could build over a period of years, but it's reliant on us getting into that Champions League on a regular basis, and not 1 year in 5, 6, whatever it is.
Terry, the football club, right, has got surplus in the bank year on year. The accounts are public knowledge. Okay. The board are there to support the product on the park. That is the definition of it. And do you know what? See, the better the product in the park, the more the money comes in the coffers. And you're not daft. None of us are daft. All we want is Celtic to push what is within their boundaries. I don't want Celtic pushing out with their boundaries. I want Celtic to push their own boundaries, though. And it's not about, it's too easy, and it's been too easy for too long to look at the backdrop of TV deals Celtic's been complicit in agreeing to, by the way, right? Because they are part of it, whether we like it or not. The SPFL agree these TV deals. The SPFL predominantly has, and will now going forward again, have a Celtic board member on their board. And the SPFL, people forget, is the 42 clubs together anyway, right? So a lot of the sponsorship deals you see going tits up, a lot of the TV deals you see that are undervalued, sadly, Celtic, whether they maybe have voted against a Sky deal, maybe Celtic in the, I think it was 2000, wanted with Roger Mitchell to do SPFL TV. Well, you've not convinced the other clubs. It's our responsibility to convince other clubs. It's a failing, in my opinion. Whether folk like that or not is irrelevant. We have a responsibility to maximise our earnings year on year. That's not to the board. That's not to the people that have made proper money off Celtic in the last 20 years. That responsibility is to the fans, because the more we can generate, the better we're going to see in that pitch. The better we're going to see. And I don't think there, I think, in my honest opinion now, Terry, post-COVID, I want your thoughts on this before we go to Mark. But Terry, my thoughts post-COVID are, the rainy day has been. The rainy day has been for where that nest egg was designed for. The rainy day has been. We survived it. It's time to start appreciating the fact that we're a club that generates spectacular money for a Scottish team. So firstly, make sure you win your league title year on year. And secondly, make sure you have contributed to that coefficient to make sure that even if we were to finish second this year, next year, the year down the line, see if we do. I want to make sure we've got Champions League football still on the horizon. That is, I don't think this is beyond the realms of possibility. Scotland has 2 Champions League group stage teams, but it'll only be done if both of them are contributing in Europe. And the only way we can contribute in Europe, rather than looking at a doomsday scenario, is if we believe and we just push our own boundaries. Not beyond our boundaries, but push our own, Terry.
I agree with you. We obviously don't want a scenario where we put ourselves in any kind of trouble, but there's absolutely no...
far away though from it, Terry.
Yeah.
There's a middle ground here to discuss.
I hate that phrase. Do you know that? I hate that phrase. It just seems to be like a pre-made, pre-oven ready, whatever we like to call it, excuse for pushing the boundaries, because you do what end up happening, turning into Rangers Mark II. And sorry, Terry, I'll let you finish your point, but that seems to be, no you here, but it just seems to be an oven ready excuse for anybody that wants to hold the club back.
Yeah, but I think what you get accused of is when you want the club to speculate, that's what you get thrown at you is.
Yes, you do, mate. You do that. Yeah.
You want us to end up like the crowd across the road, and that's not what anybody wants. But what you want is to see the best possible product on the pitch that we can provide. And if you look across other clubs across Europe in similar leagues with similar sizes, they're qualifying for Champions League group stages 2 years out of 3. And I think that's the absolute least that we can expect. Even looking back at the result from last night, Bodo Glimt were over here in Belfast and were beaten by Linfield in the Champions League qualifier, and there was 8 players who played against Celtic were playing last night. I know they lost. I know they lost the guy up front. A couple of other players weren't playing, but there were 8 players who played in both ties. And fair enough, Bodo might still go through. I'm not too bothered about it, but I just thought when we watched that game last year, we almost accepted, oh well, they're a good side. All right, they're small crowd, but they're a good side. They're a good side. They got beaten in Belfast last night by Linfield.
And by the way, Terry, just very quickly, I'm going to dive in.
Yeah, go
They're
ahead.
in their football season right now. They hadn't played for 3 months when we played them, and we were at the peak of our powers last season.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's a mentality thing, but as well as Terry touched on as well, that there's so many teams like under the coefficient lower than Scotland, but are constantly qualifying for the Champions League. Mark, like you see teams for I don't even know what countries, man, to be honest with you, off the top of my head. But as Terry said, there's so many teams that you're looking at the Champions League every year and going, what is happening here, man? How are they teams in this fucking Champions League and we aren't? Is it
Croatian teams and everything.
is it as much mentality as it is quality?
It must be, mate, because I think mentality plays a big part in sport, and I think when you've got a fan base that can overwhelm the players, and you've got a fan base that are, that are almost accepting that their level is a lot lower than what even they can imagine it to be. I think you're setting yourself up to fail, mate. And I mean, what Ted just said there about Bodo Glimt, 8 of players. I mean, they outplayed us in a way I didn't think was possible under Ange last season. I did see, I know, mate, and I did see actually that Celtic and Sturm Graz, FK Vaduz and Celtic are the only teams they've ever beat away from home. And I couldn't believe that, mate. And I was seeing that this morning, and I found out they could beat 1-0. And you can't put the two results in the same bracket because it's 2 different years, and anybody can win a 1.5 game. I understand that, but I just felt like that last night. I mean, that's a bit of a wake up call. If Terry's saying 8 of the players there were playing against us, and they looked a lot better than us, mate. You know what I mean? And I don't think we were that far away from getting to Europa League latter stages. I think we're only maybe one game or one victory away from doing it. So I think
see when you look at when you look at the Conference League final last year, I think it was Roma and Mark, you're the man, you're the stato.
Is it a French team by any chance? No,
I can't remember. Roma won 1-0. It was a terrible game. There's no way you look. I watched that game and
Feyenoord, was it?
Feyenoord,
so
you're right, mate.
Well
You're
done,
right,
Terry.
mate. You're right. And I watched that game, and after the Bodo Glimt game at Parkhead and away in Norway as well, you're thinking there is no way that we couldn't have got to that final and gave any one of the games a good performance against them. Roma were shite, Feyenoord were shite, and again you hark back to the mentality. But I don't know if you look back at the Martinelli era with Sutton, with Alan Thompson, and all these big game players. Big game players. I think that's what we're missing now. If you look back at the Martin O'Neill side,
see Martin O'Neill's
big game
team.
players, man.
Martin O'Neill's team after Seville had to be strengthened. That's the truth. That's what we all wanted, and he got fuck all. This Celtic team right now, you've got I don't know if it's a generational thing or it's an Ange Postecoglou influence thing. Not his fault, by the way. That's not what I mean.
No.
I just mean because the buy-in's so big right now that they've all went, but I've got my 11 favourite players. We're done. We're sorted. All we need is cover for them. Well, Terry's just educated us there. That same first team that is potentially likely to start lost to Bodo Glimt. I felt at the peak of their powers last year. That's when I felt we were in, we had the foot down in the gas, if you ask me. Mark, we can never, ever at any point put out hashtags saying we never stop. Success never rests.
Yeah.
2 slogans have came from one club that may well begin the season once the transfer window's shut with a surplus in the bank. That means quite clearly we do stop. Quite clearly, success does start resting. Is success for you now gauged by the SPFL title? Going into an era, Mark, right? And this is my next question on it. And we're in no rush, by the way, to jump off, lads. But going into an era now where, whether we like this or not, this is the facts. We're now back, guys, in an era where it's tit for tat at the top of the SPFL. Celtic have a divine right because our team's good that we'll clean up domestically, lads. We'll clean up. This is now tit for tat again. This is a European finalist last year and the year before they won the league by 35 points. That's the reality of who we're up against, right?
25,
sorry. 25 points. Aye. Well, I'm glad you're upset about it.
That's on Twitter, right, Bhoycie?
I'm glad you're upset about it, mate. I'm glad you're upset. about it, though, because do you know what?
I know.
Refreshing, eh? Because right now, 25 points behind 1 year. They're European finalists the next. Don't tell me they're suddenly shite. They fell off a cliff because we're good. See, whatever your
No,
competition is, your competition, it never stops either. You've consistently got to grow. Consistently got to grow. Mark, right now we're in a situation where we've been given the tools by UEFA this year. We've been given the tools by a kit, I'm going to guess, is in the top 10, if not top 5, biggest selling UK shirts already this summer on that away kit. Because it's sensational how many folk have bought it, and well played to Celtic on that. Season ticket holders sold out 52,000. You know, all to me, the tools seem to be there. I don't understand where this narrative comes from, that because we've got a team that we've seen get built last year on a complete rush of blood at times, and not Andrew's fault, but the club was in a rush of blood, let's be completely honest, on a lack of time, on a lack of knowledge of what the budget would be coming the following 12 months. See, now we've got that all in place, then you need to adapt again. And if that means a player that we bought 6 months ago was to get punted so you could bring in a better version, I would have no airs of graces about that. Nobody's bigger than Celtic.
That's evolution, Bhoycie. And I think if wee Wally Winkie was sitting with his wee hat on writing a story or a script of how this pre-season could go, it couldn't go any better than having £40 million in the bank that wasn't budgeted for. Your 2 best players for last season, or 2 of the key players, signed up. A straight pathway to the Champions League. For the first time in a long time, knowing exactly when your season starts. No ifs, no buts. Nothing at all when it comes to buying players. You could sell your players on the basis of where we are rather than where we're hoping to be.
Yes.
So with all our ducks in a row, if you had to pick the perfect pre-season for Celtic in terms of the projected stuff, you couldn't have picked any better, Bhoycie, right? The players who we wanted to sign full time, they signed for us, okay? We'll get the jackpot of the Champions League. We've also got all those things that I mentioned. Now, if you still go into that season not getting yourself in the best footing, then you've only got one person to blame. Now, we've got a rivals who went to the UEFA Cup final, and they were a one Goff's missed kick away from winning the Europa League. I'd have had to move to Ireland, by the way, if he scored that, but he didn't score it, thank the Lord. Now, that's how good they can be on certain days, you know what I mean? But for some guy who goes to the cat house, no missing that shot, they were there with another £30 million in the bank, with another £40 million probably coming for the Champions League straight qualifications. So that's how good they can be, Bhoycie. They almost beat us at Ibrox, but they didn't beat us. They almost did. The game they won 2-0, 2-1. They could have went 2-0 up. But that's the fine margins in football. When I accept fine margins go both ways, they could win matches at the last kick of the ball, and so can we. That's football. But what you can't do in football is expect those last minute winners to be the norm. And for those, I mean, we lost 3 out of 7, right? And for us to have went through that the rest of the season, though, as a match, it's absolutely remarkable. It is something that it's a sensational, to quote Martin Neal, it was sensational. And do you know what? As much as that is a fantastic achievement, see, instead of us looking at that as an argument or a basis to say this can happen, I'd rather you look at that and say, look, we've got to learn from that. We took a major hit and we come back from it. But we've got to, with the tools at our disposal, start the season in the best possible way Celtic can. And if that means us spending a bit more money than the club's comfortable with spending, not affording. If the club aren't comfortable spending that bit extra money, I want to know why, you know what I mean? And I don't think there's anything wrong with any supporter wishing the club would go one step further. See if any fan base rests on their laurels, they cannot be hypercritical of the board if things start to go awry. Because last season, if things went awry, come December, January, me, you, and anybody else, if Ange went out the door, would say, do you know what? Ange takes some responsibility because he didn't bring in his backroom staff, because you'd put a wee bit of responsibility on him. Okay? So, but us as fans have got responsibility as well. See if we sit back and allow the narrative to be created that our starting 11 is the best we can make it. then we're actually holding the club back. The best team in the world just now are probably looking at the transfer market. I'm talking about the best teams in the world
Man
just now.
City just signed Haaland.
Where you
They've
go,
won
Bhoycie.
4 of the last
Man
5,
City don't
I
look
think
like
it
a
is,
team
Premier
that
League
needs a lot
titles.
of help.
And
They
they
just won
just
the
signed
league.
Haaland.
Well, see if they can do it, Bhoycie. I don't mean spend 100 million, but see if they can sit around a table and be
They'll get it done,
objective.
don't
Right. But see if they can be objective, Bhoycie, and say, okay, we might be the best team in the league, but you only become the best, right? See if you're the best snooker player, you only become the best by practicing 23 and a half hours a day. You don't just sit back and go, I'm the best snooker player. You know what I mean? And same as football, mate. Same as football.
Mate,
Don't
boys,
just sit back.
we should get Judge Kearney and Mark's analogies as well on a fucking Tuesday night, man, because this is fucking top class podcasting, man. Honestly, mate.
I just talk with a shite sometimes.
I know I've had a few cans,
again.
mate, but this is an absolute fucking pleasure to listen to, man. This is superb, man.
Thanks,
really
thanks,
is, man.
It's not about.
It is, mate. It is, man.
It's not Terry. It's not about Mark having, sitting, getting a semi. Do you know what I mean? Because he's slagging off the Celtic board. Because it's not actually what it's all about. It's always keeping an eye on them. I'll go back to what I said Monday. In fact, I'm going full circle again. Terry, at the end of the day, the facts are there. The accounts are public. They always will be. How convinced are you Celtic will be fully tooled up for a Champions League campaign that could matter? Now, I am not expecting last 16s, Terry. I don't. I've already almost written it off. I think we should be always, though, right now at this stage, whilst we qualify for a tournament sporadically, I think a third place finish in the group should be your goal. Anything above that's a bonus. But see, once you qualify 3 or 4 times, Terry, in a row, guess what? You get better at something, don't you? You get better, Terry. Yeah. And once you've been in a competition 3-4 times in a row, I don't mean 3-4 times at the last 8-9 years, 3-4 times in a row, you're getting players turning their heads who go, oh, wow, Celtic's a regular qualifier for that. You're selling players for higher transfer fees, Terry, because guess what? Look at Calvin Bassey going from Rangers for 19 million after 6 good months.
That's 35 million euros, Bhoycie.
I know. But because he was in a European final, that elevated his status to a level.
Yeah.
That's where that fee comes from. We get guys regularly doing that. Okay, the club might need to evolve at a quicker rate than we thought. The team building that you've seen under the Martin O'Neill time when you built a team for 3 years, those days might be over. But one thing we can guarantee, Terry, is evolution. And it's evolution that will keep us in there. Don't tell me we're held back that much by Scottish football when you see clubs far smaller, other avenues of revenue than Celtic have that compete there more often than we have since the year 2000. And there is plenty.
So are you asking me, are we going to go out and get our upgrades before the Champions League?
Do you think we will?
No.
You don't?
Mate.
You think the team's done?
I hope we will. I mean, my vision for this season would be that we would have upgraded in 4 positions. That's as well as bringing in the 2 loan players from last season, Carter Vickers and Jota. I think for an assault on the Champions League with the money guaranteed in the bank, 4 upgrades on last year's first team. Right now, we're sitting with the same first team as last season.
I would have said 4 as well, Terry, but I think the goalkeeper's been kind of degressed. I'm happy with, but the other 3 I would agree with.
Well, he doesn't upgrade the first team.
You think so? No, think so?
He's a backup, mate. He's not been signed to upgrade the first team. I think, although I'll flip it, I actually think he will be the first choice keeper come the end of the season.
You've said
it's
that,
another
mate.
debate at some point.
Totally disagree with me. I think you're talking pish, but hi ho.
It's fair, mate. It's absolutely.
Sorry, Terry, by the way, I interrupted there, Terry. Sorry on you go, mate.
I wanted 4. I said last week I'd settle for 2.
Now, Terry!
I still want 2. I
still want think there's going to be 1?
I don't even going to be 1.
Put it like this, the window, what have we still got left in the window? 35, 40 days, something like that.
Is it August or July?
31st. So the first day of the season's obviously 11 days, Bullfrog, and then you're looking at the 31st of August. You're looking at
Is
or
that,
maybe the
is that the
1st of
deadline
September.
day? Is that deadline day 31st of August?
Deadline
Aye.
day.
Is
But
it?
the Champions League will have a different deadline as well.
And
That,
the
like-
Champions League group stage draw is the 25th.
Is that what the deadline is, Delay? 25th?
No, I think no. As Bhoycie was saying, I think the deadline day for transfers is the 31st of August, and the Champions League draw is the 25th.
Right.
Yeah.
So
tell
it's
you
not.
something,
You're probably able to submit your squad though. I would imagine, Dale, you'd probably be able to submit your CL squad once sort of universally across Europe, all the windows kind of shut. Bar
Give
maybe
you a
the
chance.
odd one, like, I wouldn't pick a country, but you know what I mean? Like the odd more obscure nations, maybe they'll still run till mid-September that UEFA will not care about. But I would imagine we'll still be in tandem with sort of UEFA's deadlines. Does that make sense? I would imagine. But again, do you then want Ange to be integrating players whilst we're in competitive football during the campaign?
No,
Jonathan Bhoycie is convinced Ange will by the 31st of July have told Celtic, my work is done. I've got a season to deal with. He's convinced.
Well, Bhoycie, what did I say to you the other day there? I said on the 7th of June, I said the team that finished last season will be the team that starts the new season. And I said that with a wee bit of, self-doubt, thinking, I hope I'm wrong here. Do you know something? See, I think it was O'Neill's second, or Rodgers' second season, I said to Big Alec, who sits to the right-hand side of me, I said, Alec, I said, see that team there? That'll be the one getting to the qualifiers. He's like, no, wee man. I said, Alec, I've been doing this one before with Celtic. I said, they will not speculate to accumulate. And I did say that. I mean, I was hoping I was wrong, Bhoycie, but we're 12 days away and I don't see Bernabeu being a left back. I think it's got to be Taylor.
Matt, let's talk about Gary Gow because I like to come to the comments and I never always put up comments.
I'm going to get a hoodie on because I'm outside. I'm fucking freezing now, man.
No worries, mate. We never always just bring up comments, guys, that necessarily agree with what the boss thinks. Gary Gow says, does none of the guys in the panel know money doesn't just sit in the bank? The club has running costs, wages, etc. We're well aware of that, Gary. I certainly am.
All right.
Because see, when the club publish their accounts, publish those running costs, they've got to publish then their surplus sitting in the bank in capital at that time as well. Now we all want to be
Bhoycie, but it's your money
because we're all.
It's your money you've got.
Well,
and it's Terry's money. It's not their money they're sitting with. It's your money and Dale's wee boys' chip money for the other day there. It's not their money. See the money they bring into the club, by the way. It's money to
we
pay
all know
wages.
the running costs and wages, Terry, don't we?
Yeah.
We all know that, Terry. There's running costs, there's wages. But surely we also know when you then get what is sitting in the plus, in the positive, Terry, that's what's left over. There's going to be more left over based on the spending we've seen so far. There will be more left over. I guarantee it because the revenue is higher. I've given you the examples. The huge season ticket sales sold out. The kit merchandise money this year's going to go nuts because Adidas have finally picked up the ball in the third year and provided us with a kit I think is pretty iconic, based again even on tonight. And mainly because we're in the Champions League group stage, mate. And the 10% UK share that you get of TV revenue, the UEFA prize money you get, and someone else, Gary Brown, I think it was in the comments, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but he'd said earlier on at the top of the show, folk forget as well, you get a draw in the Champions League, you get something like £500,000. You get a win, you get 2 million, if not up. It's probably ahead of that now. I'm probably going back to the last time we were in this competition with the numbers I'm crunching here. So there is not going to be a situation, Terry, where running costs, wages, etc. are the issue. As I'll say, and I'll repeat, I want Celtic to push their own boundaries, which would mean factoring all that in, Terry. I don't want us to go beyond those boundaries.
No, it's just push the boundary, push the comfort zone. Once you're at your comfort zone, push it a little bit more. It's like anything else. You can always go a couple more percent. Once you push the boundary and that boundary then becomes your comfort zone, you extend your comfort zone by another little bit and you keep extending it. Keep extending it.
Terry, spot on. ladies and gentlemen, we are going to call it a night. It's been way longer for a pre-season post-match pitch than we expected. The face of post-match pitch, as you'll see at the top right, is Terry Robb. And as me and Terry have had a chat off camera, it's the only time I share it with you. Terry has signed a lifetime deal, guys. So whenever Celtic play, he gets a link sent to him to join the Bhoycie bus. He's signed the deal. I've signed the deal. So get used to seeing more of Terry Robb this year. Hopefully, it'll be more than just 6 European games, Terry. We'll find out, and I hope it is, before people tell me we want Celtic to lose and stuff. Mark, the Judge Kearney, will be back soon. He's obviously now the regular feature on the Regan Stevenson, a Celtic Sunday blether, which is growing and growing week on week. And Del O'Reilly, who did his first My Celtic story with Phil McGinley on Sunday. Catch up with that, because it's not a show that's time-stamped. It's a show that you can watch at any time. It really is class, and it gives you insight into Phil McGinley, a guy you're going to see loads of on the bus via Nostalgia and features on other shows that we do. As the more and more live games Celtic play, the more and more content you're going to get. Guys, I thank you so much for your efforts. I'd never asked you to do an hour and 35 minutes tonight, so I really do appreciate it. If any of you want to hang on for a beer after, of course, as always, you're welcome. That's me telling you I'm off tomorrow. But if not, don't worry about it. But thank you guys so much. Everyone in the comments, still over 150 right now. We are the Bhoycie Bus. Cheers.
Some of his comments about
Hello, guys.
deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.